Next up is a modern version of one of the oldest trades in the world.
Hey, Sharks. Does this look familiar to you? Have you noticed that when you buy spices at the supermarket, they don't have much flavor?
Gross.
I'm Ethan, chef turned aid worker from New York City.
And I'm Ori, a marketing executive turned entrepreneur, born in Israel and raised in Baltimore, Maryland.
And we're the co-founders of Burlap and Barrel.
Hey, whatever you're doing right now, stop what you're doing and give some super claps for Super Ethan and Super Ori. Woo! Welcome, guys. Welcome. How are you doing today?
Good. Thanks for having us.
So welcome. I'm glad we were able to finally make it happen. I know we were scheduled to talk a while ago, but that did not quite happen. I got somebody looking at me through the window over there. They put a smile on their face, so it's all good. So we were scheduled for a while ago, and then all of a sudden, like, I think the scheduling didn't work out, and then I was going through and I was like, oh man, I forgot, like I hadn't had a chance to get back around to having you guys on. So here we are. But first I gotta ask, what did it feel like walking down the hall?
Oh my God, what a treat. I mean, before we went we were spending for maybe 4 minutes, like shoulder to shoulder, closer than we've ever stood before. Just kind of getting ready waiting for them to say go. But I mean, we'll talk more about this, but this was the accumulation of like months and months and months of prep work to finally be there with hair and makeup and wardrobe and mics, layers of mics, so we could tear our outer layer of clothing off and all that. So it was quite surreal. And I think they made us sign a thing that says that they can film us even when we don't know they're filming us, and that we give them the rights to use it. And so also just trying to like just be cool, just show up well on TV, because not give them anything that they could use to make us look silly, in the ultimate cut of it.
Do you feel like that plays a part in giving you extra anxiety in that case? Because, oh no, I can't do this because if the camera's over here, it might look like this, and
I've
things
never
like
been
that.
more aware of like what I'm doing and how I'm standing, and I was like, am I walking right? Is this the regular size of my paces? And they tell us also ahead of time that the theme song is playing in your ears while you're walking down the hallway, even though it's completely silent. And it was.
We watched so many episodes at that point that we could hum the theme song to ourselves as we walked down the hallway. The one cool thing about the hallway itself is that it's got a forced perspective. It looks longer on TV than it actually is, because the walls actually slant in towards each other. So it was cool to see a little bit of that TV studio magic of making the hallway look longer, and then actually it was just the way the set was built.
Yeah. And there's real water in there.
Oh, there is. Oh, I kind of assumed that it wasn't real water, that it was I don't know, just plastic or something on top.
I wasn't worried about falling in until they told us it's real water, don't fall in. And I was like, oh no, that's
you shouldn't be walking
that can happen
anywhere near that. But if you were coming down with pogo sticks or skateboards or something, you never know, right? That was
just everyday walking, just seeing how well we could do it.
Well, it's a tremendous amount of stress that you're putting yourself under to make all that happen, and to be thinking about what's everything with your pitch that you have to do. And obviously, I'm sure you guys realized you were just going to stand there for a minute and a half before go time is actually there, which to me is I feel like I would be wanting to hold my breath the entire time. I'd walk out there and I'd be I gotta breathe. Remember to breathe. And then it's go. And it's oh, I'm supposed to be breathing. Trying to catch my breath.
And all of it feels really surreal because, like Ethan said, we've watched so many episodes of Shark Tank, and some days you feel like you're doing a Shark Tank impression, of people who go on Shark Tank, and so it felt really surreal and really wonderful. And we started this business we're a little over 7 years ago. We were bootstrapped. We're a single origin spice business that works with smallholder farmers. Being in LA on a proper Hollywood set with the whole kit and caboodle around it of producers and this and that. It was super fun, super interesting, but also very far out of what our day-to-day is around kind of running and building this business.
I bet. I mean, Ethan, I wanted to get into the time you spent building schools in Afghanistan, which is super awesome that you were able to go and get to do that. I mean, not everybody gets to go and do and even one school, let alone 200 schools. What was your involvement with building those?
Yeah, I had moved to Afghanistan after getting my master's degree in international development. I wanted to be an aid worker, so I moved to Afghanistan for a job with a big organization called the Aga Khan Foundation. But I had always been interested in kind of the overlap of entrepreneurship and social impact. Ori and I had another business together previously, an ice cream company called Gorilla Ice Cream. Ori was working in advertising. I was working in restaurant kitchens. This was New York City, summer of 2010. And we started selling flavors, ice cream flavors inspired by revolutions and political movements from around the world, donating 100% of the profits. So we had all kinds of crazy flavors. I was making it all myself in a rented restaurant kitchen space. Ori was working full time during the week, and then, selling ice cream at markets over the weekends. So we'd had this early experience of entrepreneurship and social entrepreneurship. And then I wound up going to graduate school and moving to Afghanistan. I lived there for about 2.5 years, all told, working on a lot of projects. But one of them was this huge the project you mentioned, a huge school construction project, which took me to a lot of very rural, remote areas in the northeast of the country. Not a place that a lot of people get to go to, as you mentioned. It was a real privilege, and I was really struck by a lot of things about life there and the geography and the people. But one of them was the food, and in particular this variety of wild cumin that region of Afghanistan is famous for. And I had been a line cook, a pastry chef in New York City, so I started carrying it home in duffel bags. And that was really kind of the very beginning of Burlap and Barrel was smuggling spices home from Afghanistan to share with like chef buddies in New York.
Now, you say the word smuggle. Was it legal?
Yeah, it's legal. It depends on what you call it. If you call it a cumin seed, maybe you're not allowed to bring it in. But if you call it, cumin spice, you are. There's a lot of funny loopholes. Obviously, we now run a much more professional operation these days. 7 years later, we're not carrying spices home in duffel bags anymore for the most part. But that was the initial sort of spirit of the business was very scrappy, bootstrapped. How do we make this happen with our own resources and with a network of amazing partner farmers around the world?
Wow. And the ice cream business, Gorilla Ice Cream. So 100% of the profits went. Okay. How?
Yeah. Well, it's an ice
you were
cream
paying
cart.
yourself at least, right? Like.
It was a summer project. Nobody was
Okay.
expecting to get rich making ice cream. And the flavors were pretty strange and conceptual. We had a roast duck ice cream at one point. That was kind of the wackiest. But, I had been a pastry chef in a good restaurant. So there was a whole presentation. We were bruleeing bananas to order. We had a blowtorch. And one of the ice cream flavors had frozen banana slices that we would blowtorch to order on the cart. So, it was for fun and to use ice cream to talk about these bigger messages. I think we ultimately donated a few $1,000s by the end of the summer, mostly to the Street Vendor Project, a street vendor advocacy organization in New York City.
Yeah, and we talk like entrepreneurship is like a muscle, you get to flex it and you get to keep building it. And I think that this Burlap and Barrel wasn't either of our first businesses, let alone our first businesses together. And really what Gorilla Ice Cream let us do was to practice starting a company. It was just for a summer, but we put our hearts into it. We put our souls into it. Every free hour that we had, I was taking conference calls for my main work, while scooping ice cream out of the cart. But it was really fun, and we got to tell a really interesting story about New York City. There's ice cream on every single corner. Why would you pick our ice cream? And so we got to really see what it was like to build a business, to build a food business, to work together, to kind of tell interesting and compelling stories about new types of products that would make people really care about it. And so that was a really, really great way to learn about how to build it and how to work together. And at the end of the summer, Ethan moved off to London to get his master's degree and eventually took him to Afghanistan. I moved over to San Francisco to start the next company. But really, we got to see what it was like to run this business. And that only led us to wanting to do the next thing together. And it took us years to kind of get back to it and figure out what that thing was. But Ethan picking up that cumin, bringing it back to the US, and chefs smelling it and losing their absolute minds around it. That was a really meaningful light bulb moment to say, wait a second, there's something here.
I mean, it sounds like look, I always, you can always pay for things like mistakes, right? Or problems that occur, right? You pay, that's the experience, right? You get experience through like paying money for being taught or through making mistakes. And I love that you guys were like, you know what, we're going to actively pay to make a mistake, right? And who knows, maybe it took off so much that you're like, okay, maybe we need to back it down, like 70% of the profits go to it. But
let me tell you now, it's absolutely not a mistake. That's our next business was with shelf stable, shippable products. Believe me, after like putting in our cart like the frozen ice cream that Ethan had made in the restaurant kitchen, and then the bag tore, and now our ice cream is spilled all across Hester Street in like the Lower East Side, and like the exact right.
The freezer. Do you remember we had a weekend where the freezer, somebody unplugged our freezer in the restaurant kitchen, and that was thousands of dollars and how many hours of my time. It was a product that melts. So when we came back together to start our next company, right, exactly, something that had a little bit of a different unit economics and relationship with.
It was an investment, okay, not a mistake, an investment that saved us a lot of future anguish in Burlap and Barrel.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, to be able to transport it across not only from country to country, Afghanistan or whatever country the spice is coming from, but in America, right? And then out from America from there. So, and have it shelf stable and stuff. I mean, that definitely, you got to use a word, you got a taste of what it's like to do something that's like, is brutal, right? Selling ice cream inside of, you already have like a small, like a brick and mortar box, right? The square footage there is hard to get into. And then you're like, let's go even smaller and go into these frozen things. And it's like, oh God, like that is brutal. So you guys got a great experience. I mean, you found out what you didn't want to do out of it.
Yeah, and we also got to learn a lot about what worked and what resonated with people. So like early on, we started talking all about politics and political revolutions and all this and that. And I just remember we'd have like little kids come up to us and be like, do you have vanilla? And we'd be like, no. But we have this Libertacao after Guinea-Bissau pro-democracy movement, and it's chocolate and port wine. And like, so like we also like learned about how to like talk about things in ways that people kind of piqued their attention. It was new, it was different, to how to really play up the really unique parts of it and have a product that was worth paying attention to. And so we really got to play around a lot with that in Gorilla Ice Cream and kind of see what connected with people. And we were at the cart selling. So like we're hearing from people 100 times a day what they like, what they don't like, what questions they have. So I don't know. I think people underestimate like how much value you learn from just doing a business. Like maybe it's the brilliant idea that will change the world, or maybe it's just something to get you started, but you're going to learn about how to like grow and market and print out materials and staff and your ingredient costs and all that stuff. And that was all super, super relevant in Burlap and Barrel, but years later.
Yeah, no, I absolutely. I love that you guys, that you have that story to be able to tell after the fact as well. Totally worth the time, effort, money, and probably more lessons learned there than probably a lot of your schooling, if not all your schooling. So with that said, you guys have been crushing it. You go in there and you're like, we got $12 million in revenue in 6 years. But you come in looking for $500,000 for 5%. Now, I am no Shark Tank historian, but anytime you go over $250,000 for any amount of percentage, you're significantly cutting down your chances of getting a deal. Why and how did you land on the 500,000 for 5%?
I first of all, if anyone is a Shark Tank historian, Joe, I believe that you could own that title.
Thank you.
but we don't. My time after, in between Gorilla Ice Cream, Burlap and Barrels, I moved to San Francisco. I met with some investors. We ended up starting a venture-backed mortgage company. Seems totally irrelevant to food and in this journey, but my background is in business and in marketing, and I just was looking for the next entrepreneurial kind of challenge while I waited for Ethan to figure out what the next idea would be. But that was really interesting, and just learned how we raised a bunch of money. We hired a bunch of people. It also told me what I didn't want, which was a venture-backed company and this whole kind of intense pace of everything. But we also know what a company is worth on the market. I mean, we were profitable. We were having growing sales every single year. We had established relationships with e-commerce, which was one of the hardest things to do without venture money to pay for acquisition. So we also walked in there knowing our value and knowing that we were a company that was further along in terms of traction and in terms of revenue. And as a result, it's lower in risk because we've done more work. We're not just throwing out an idea and maybe people will connect with it and maybe people won't. So we kind of knew what it was, and we wanted to make sure that like we wanted to represent our own value in this and the value of the company. And we wanted the Sharks to come in and make a deal. Also, that amount of money, they can all spare it. But we came in coming in, knowing our value and wanting to ask for something that if we were going to raise money in the world, which we don't want to do, we would have raised at an even higher valuation. So we said, all right, we'll take a haircut on that. Come into the Sharks. Yes, it's a little bit of a stretch, but they're also getting a company that's done over 10 million bucks in revenue and was set up to do even more. So we felt like that was pretty reasonable. We even were talking about coming in with a higher valuation, and our producers didn't tell us, but gave us some suggestions that maybe they would be more amenable to a smaller ask. And the other side of it, for whatever it's worth, is just that we didn't want to offer them so little equity that they would scoff at us. So we didn't want to come in for like 100K for 1%. And I think they would laugh us out of the room for that. So we tried to just find that point that we thought would be within reach for the Sharks, that would be kind of enough equity for them to get enough of a bite out of our company, but still kind of maintain what we could have done in the real world.
Yeah, I mean, because when you go in and look for it, it's got to be a meaningful amount of money that's going to move the needle for you, right? As well, like if you go like, oh yeah, you come in and it's like 75,000, that's not necessarily enough, money for it to move the needle for you guys when you're already profitable, when you're already doing and you have those connections. I mean, you went in, and at the time you guys said you had 70 individual spices that you is that still the case, or have you expanded, or have you shrunk that down or narrowed that down?
We've definitely expanded. We may have dropped a few things in the meantime, but the overall number is only growing. Yeah, there's all kinds of new stuff that's come out in the last few months.
Have you guys found that it's difficult? Does it make it more difficult on the having that many SKUs? I mean, that's
Sure.
where my mind goes, right? As soon as you say 70 spices, I'm like, wow, that's a lot of SKUs. Now you are 6 years into it, 7 years now. So it's not like we're year one and we got 70 different products that I almost said part numbers, but products that we're bringing to the table that we have to fulfill.
Yeah, and not to mention, every one of those has a supply chain that we've built from scratch behind it. This isn't like calling a commodity supplier or broker or somebody and saying, get me 10 pounds of whatever. Like we're going to farms in India and Tanzania and Guatemala, setting farmers up to export their own product, often for the very first time. So every one of those products has a story behind it, a supply chain, a series of decisions that we made to source this product from this country and this farm, and a real relationship. Actually, one of our partner farmers, the guy in Guatemala that I mentioned, was just in New York recently. I took him around Manhattan, showed him the Statue of Liberty, and it was pretty cool. We've been to the farm many times, but amazing to have a farmer be able to visit us in New York too.
I love that. While I'm not from New York, I'm from the Philly area. It is a pretty special place to get to go, and I'm glad that over the years I've gotten to go many times a year to go hang out in Manhattan with friends and things of that nature. But no, that's also, I mean, also it does sound quite expensive to make those trips and all that, to be able to bake that into your costs. Pun sort of intended. How have you guys been able to mitigate some of those hurdles? because like
Yeah.
you got to find like the farmer, like, and that isn't always the easiest thing to do. If hopefully, I would imagine they're probably getting in contact with you at this point ahead of time, so at least you're not going there and being like, okay, let's go drive around until we find some farms, or I kind of saw it on Google Maps, this looks like it could be it, kind of thing. Can you break down some of that, the logistics of that?
Yeah, I mean, you got it. That's exactly it. We're in touch with
Going to Google
farmers.
Maps? Okay.
Sometimes,
Okay.
yeah, no, all of those things. We're looking around on Google Maps. We're reaching out to nonprofits or local government offices, and then, like you mentioned, a lot of farmers more and more are reaching out to us. They find us on social media. They see us on Shark Tank. The idea that we're presenting, export your own spices, make more money, have more control over the supply chain. That's a pretty appealing idea to an entrepreneurial spice farmer in almost any country. And that's really what has worked with our model, is that, as you mentioned, it's very difficult to find farmers, but the way that we work with farmers can really, really turn their businesses around. We can really help them grow and make 10 plus X per kilo what they would have been making earlier selling it into the commodity market. So farmers are definitely eager to work with us. That makes it easier to find people. We're planning a trip right now, actually, to Ethiopia and Tanzania, meeting with some existing suppliers and some new suppliers. We've been all over the world. Travel really, when you do it the way that we do it, at least, is not very expensive. We're staying often on the farms or in small towns or something near the farms, pretty bare bones places. But that's honestly, that's one of the many fun parts of this job, is that we not only get to, but we really have seen the value over time in traveling, visiting people in person, spending time on the farm, understanding what a farmer's business model and lifestyle is like, what are their priorities for themselves and their families, and to have a frank conversation in both directions, have them get to know us in the same way as well, so that it's a real partnership that we're building over time. It's not kind of a buy what you can or price shopping kind of deal. We're working with people long term.
It's something that just came to me. Have you guys run into? I know that the cocoa farmers have this issue of child labor, right? And specifically like Tony's. I had never heard of Tony's. I happened to be in an airport. I was like, this sounds really good. Let me try it out. I didn't know anything about it. So I'm flying after I got the Tony's. It's sitting on my lap, and I'm watching Last Week Tonight, and I'm like, wait, I'm eating that chocolate.
Oh,
I never even heard of
nice.
this before. I just happened to be in the Hudson News store and was like, wow, pretzel chocolate, or pretzel nut chocolate or whatever. Like, that sounds really good. I'll give it, I didn't even know what I paid for it at the time, but then realized afterwards that was expensive. I get a lot cheaper, when I'm not in an airport. And but it, you staying at the farm, I imagine that you would be, first, front row seats if that was the case. But is that something that's plaguing that in the spice industry as well as the cocoa farmer industry?
Yeah, I think the broad problem is that farmers are not set up to make enough money to cover their cost of living. The pressure of the commodity market on smallholder farmers, almost regardless of what they grow, whether it's cacao or coffee or spices or wheat or anything else. The pressure is on farmers to reduce their costs, and that results in all kinds of problems, child labor being one of them, but also reduction in quality being another one. That's what we saw particularly in spices, is that when farmers were incentivized to grow higher volumes, they were always growing lower quality, using lots of herbicides, pesticides, chemical fertilizers, all kinds of things that all they did was increase volume, but they decreased the quality. The flavor of the spice was really significantly reduced, and that's an area that we were able to work with farmers on by assuring them high purchase prices, by working with them, planning out year over year. They can grow for quality. They can grow really high quality spices with a ton of flavor, and make even more money and have a more profitable business with that as the foundation.
Oh, that is great to hear, and you get all the stories, right? Getting to be there, staying on the farm, and being involved with what I would hope is in most cases a family that owns the farm, not just some local company that is conglomerating to their local market. But so going into the tank, did you guys have a shark in mind, and why was it Kevin?
That's right. Kevin's always like he's sitting around, he's waiting. We found out just a few days before that Gwyneth Paltrow was going to be the guest shark, and that was really exciting. She had just come off of her "I Wish You Well" ski accident settlement, so she was really flying high. I don't know. I think everyone just kind of looks at Mark just because of his deep pockets. He's vegan or vegetarian. He kind of, has invested in other food businesses too for the love of the food, and has also access to outlets where those kind of food businesses can be sold at. So he's always was kind of high on the list. And then we were just looking around, but we were really interested to see what they would say. We knew we were asking for more money, so we were even hoping that maybe it would be a shark combo that we could in some way kind of bring on a couple of them to come on board. But I think any early stage business, one of the biggest challenges is really awareness and marketing. And the Sharks have such a huge following and such massive awareness. Also, being on Shark Tank is an excellent, form of exposure too. But really, we were hoping that one of those could really get behind it. And I think that Mark has a meaningful connection to food. I think that Lori has a good connection to food. Gwyneth, of course, has been the person that's created food trends worldwide in all kinds of wacky ways. So we kind of came in there. We were going to give our best pitch. We were hoping that a couple would maybe kind of throw their hat in the ring. And then the second we saw Mr. Wonderful starting to do this with his hands, we knew we might be in trouble.
Yeah, that would be. So, I mean, in the show, they showed that everybody went out pretty quickly. Do you know how long you were out there on the floor?
Yeah, it was close to an hour. The actual pitch and negotiation or conversation. The other thing I'll add is that we do a lot of royalty deals. That's a big part of our business. We work with a lot of chefs and creators of various kinds to make spice blends where we pay royalties. It works very well for us. So, our little back and forth with Mr. Wonderful at the end, where we offered him a royalty deal. Actually, we offered him the exact same terms we offered to all of our collaborators, cookbook authors, chefs without a big following. We felt like it's a good deal, and it's worked with a lot of other people. So we wanted to extend the same deal to him. We knew it was a long shot. It was kind of a last ditch attempt after other sharks had gone out, but we felt like it was worth trying, and so we went for it.
Yeah, and we had a lot of back and forth and a lot of conversations with the Sharks. The action sequence, we went into the hallway and discussed Mr. Wonderful's deal like that. Everyone was like, you were so quick on your feet. We were like, well, they cut out a lot of this, us blankly staring into the and are the gears in our brains working. But I think, Joe, you said this when you reviewed the episode, where this was what we thought that we would call Mr. Wonderful up with the deal and say look, you say you're Chef Wonderful. You say you have all this influence. You say you have all these millions and millions of followers in this massive database. Here you go. Here's a thing where you can kind of put it to work. And he kind of saw our deal, kind of looked at it, said no, thank you. And so we kind of tried to stick to our original guns. If it was just going to be Mr. Wonderful, if he was asking for something that in most cases was larger, could have been larger than our profit margin. It's we would have lost money if we would have, we wouldn't have been able to pay him back, right? Without getting further down. So we were really hoping that he would kind of also take the bait on a classic royalty deal that Ethan said, tried and true, works well, we can fulfill it. But with Mr. Wonderful at the helm of it, we thought it could be beautiful. He did it with a potato mailer thing and potato he could really put his name and his signature on it. But he wanted more, and that was hard for us to wrap our heads around how we could both give him that and still run the business profitably without having to then bring on other investment.
But you were asking for $500,000. It wasn't just hey, Kevin, do you want to make $2 and some cents per jar of spice? Yeah, and not give us $500,000 in the process.
And it could have been instead of or in addition to or something, but he wanted it all. I don't know. It was hard for us to negotiate back, but we thought that if Mr. Wonderful can drive 10,000, 20,000 people to buy, he'll in a month or two, in no time, he'll make his money back.
Yeah, but then he's
You don't buy it, Joe.
No, because the Chef Wonderful thing is like in addition to
Yeah.
I don't want to say throwaway thing, but it's it's an add-on to what he brings to the table.
Yeah,
but,
it sort of mitigates the risk. He's making cash back through that Chef Wonderful program while we build value in the company overall. But
again, if you were asking for like 150 to 200,000, maybe, but not to give $500,000 and him have to go to work to make it back. That's like I said, it's like an add. It's a bonus, and there's an added bonus of things. But I think that you guys at least having that game plan, and I'm a little surprised. But I mean, Barbara did say that she's like, I wish you had come in asking for like 200,000 or something, because she probably would have maybe would have wanted to take you up on that offer, or even Gwen, right? Like would have maybe wanted to take up on that offer. Like, oh, this is an addition to the deal. And or if you were able to give that royalty to him, I don't know, however many cents per bottle, or and then on top of that, if he sells any of his Chef Wonderful spices, it's tough because you're really putting it to the test, right? It's not an add-on bonus. It's like, I'm not making my money back if I don't go and do X.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, I mean, this. It's not like a typical like we would not have accepted any investor money under kind of this like duress and bright lights and cameras and all that stuff, like in any other. And that's the tank, and you got to come in there. And I think that that if we would have sat with them on a conference table and negotiated and gone back and forth, like we could have really hashed out the like, oh, what's holding you up? What's holding you? Like, how can we come together and make all this happen? But we had to take our best shot. We thought that maybe 500K would be palatable for a multi-shark deal, or maybe we should have come in with like asking for 250, and then getting a bunch of interest they would have naturally formed some of those alliances. But I think that's exactly what every entrepreneur does ahead of the Shark Tank, is you sit and you strategize. And there's some entrepreneurs that come in asking for like 10K just to kind of get a shark on board and be like, let's just go. Like, you don't have to think about this, just say yes and let's move. And so everyone kind of game plans it, and then we practice our pitch a million times. But then it's kind of like open season, and so then it's about us trying to figure out who wants what and who we can play with and all that. And that's such a high stakes, high pressure thing. So we worked in the tank. We wanted to give them something that felt like a little bit of a stretch than what they would normally do, but then we also had our Mr. Wonderful royalty deal. But they balked. They thought we were asking for too much.
It's tough. Well, you think you got it hard. Think about the three entrepreneurs that were there for the live episode that only had like literally 10 minutes. It wasn't like, oh, it looked like you had 8 minutes on the floor. No, you had an hour and they like literally got 10. So
yeah, after going through that whole process, we were like, how are they going to do it literally in 8 minutes? Like, it took them more than 8 minutes just to change out the sets, just to like get our table out there with all the stuff on it. But they pulled it off. It was a great live season kickoff.
It was a feat for sure. So speaking of prepare, how did you guys go about balancing your life, the business, and the gauntlet that is getting ready to be on Shark Tank, or potentially even being on Shark Tank?
Well, Ethan also had a newborn too.
Yeah, right.
In the immediate lead up to our taping, I moved with my wife, and I think he was 8 weeks old at that point, 8-week-old son. We picked up and moved to LA for a few weeks. My in-laws are there, so it was nice to spend time with the family. But really, the goal was to practice. And then Ori wound up coming and staying with us. It was our prep our prep house. We were locked in together talking about Shark Tank 24/7 with flashcards and gaming out different scenarios, practicing our pitch, analyzing every single word that we were using. What if we use this word, or what if we say it differently? What message does that send? We really took it very seriously because, obviously we were on Shark Tank to make a deal, and the pitch was aimed at the Sharks, but you also, you never forget the 4 million people watching at home. So we wanted to make sure that the message that we were sending would resonate not only with the Sharks as part of our, pitch for an investor, but also, make a good kind of commercial, tell the world what we're doing and why it's worth trying our spices, really.
Yeah, it was a big exercise in reducing and simplifying and sharing what's a social enterprise? Should we say that? Should we say public benefit corporation? Should we do this? Like it was everything from which spices go onto on in front of the sharks to make sure that if and when the episode airs, that we'll have good inventory of that. What do we want to show them? What's a good lineup? What feels approachable? What feels like, because people aren't here for a cooking show. People aren't here that are cooking enthusiasts. Some percentage are, but we still, even if you're not, we wanted to show them something that was interesting. We had a lot of conversations over, do they taste the spices as a prepared dish? And ultimately, we thought that would be a little bit too much of a distraction, and that it might be fun to have them taste black peppercorns and eat them and cough and breathe in some cinnamon dust and all that. We thought that would, A, really focus on the spices, and B, just be a little more entertaining. And we did everything from like you have to kind of send in everything for the set yourself. Like we had to find a company that would deliver live plants within location of the studio and to kind of get them all set up. And we had to print out these giant backdrops and all this and that. And so to look good on TV for 8 minutes, I mean, we were working on this. We even applied in 2021, didn't make it in. And then in 2020, because they said there was somebody else too similar on that season. I don't remember who it was, but that ultimately it was. But then we got in 2022, and ultimately we ended up filming on a sourcing trip to Guatemala in the cloud forests of Guatemala where the cardamom grows. We stood in front of 2 gigantic cardamom plants and filmed this video, which was just fun and interesting. Everyone asked us if it was like a green screen background, and we're like, no, we really did it. And all the way from there to turning it into like a 2-minute pitch, to figuring out wardrobe and excitement and what happens where and where the microphones go and all that stuff. It was such a heavy duty thing. And our team, at that point, we had some teammates that could kind of like keep pushing the business forward while we were semi distracted, but it was a really big investment. And we just ended up really like figuring out what it would take to get this done. I mean, we filmed it. I went up to visit Ethan and where he was living, and we taped a bunch of like preparation things. And then in LA, the house, like we just really put the time into it because we knew that the payoff of getting in front of the sharks was massive. So we really wanted to put time and effort into it while doing everything we could to keep the business going. But like you said, it's a big investment of time, and it's a longer process than people anticipate. And then after the filming, there's no guarantee that it'll air too, right? Because they film more than they air. And so then we have to do all this work to say, okay, well, what if it airs? How much inventory do we need? But what if it doesn't air? And what do we not pack? And so we staged bulk sacks of spices in jars and lids and labels at our packing facilities. And we just said, just hold on to these for a second. We'll let you know if you need to do anything with them. And when we got the email, they send you a note 3 weeks ahead of time or so when Shark Tank is going to air. On Friday at like 4 p.m., we're like, go, pack as fast as you can. We got to start making moves. And so we tried to do all this stuff to try to mitigate it, because we talked to so many people on Shark Tank that had been on the show, and the show aired, and within 3 seconds they ran out of inventory. And everybody else was like, well, this was nice, but let me know when you're restocked. And they just missed out on a lot of the benefit of being on Shark Tank, which is getting that kind of face time in front of the sharks and in front of America.
Yeah, no, that is definitely a challenge of not having enough inventory for that. Now, did you reapply in 2022? Or did they just call you up and be like, "Hey, we got a room for you"?
You had gotten in touch with a producer, right, in 2021?
Yeah. There was a year where we missed the cycle. Anyway, no, we had to reapply from scratch. We've heard of companies, or we have some friends who've been invited on. That was not the case for us. We had to do it the hard way.
No, I mean, most of the people that have come on my show they were invited onto the show. They were selected to apply, I should say, and kind of, I don't want to say fast track, but we
had to claw our way into there. I mean, the first step is we talked to a lot of folks that had been on the show, because it's pretty, like, we watched the show, we're fans, and so we just reached out to people that we saw on the show and said, hey, would you mind talking? We're thinking about applying for this. What do you have to say? And we heard from a lot of them the same thing, of saying it was absolutely worth it. It was huge for my business. And as long as the sharks kind of liked their products, then that translated into sales. When the Sharks tore them up, some of these people got some pity sales, we heard. But as long as they liked it and did that deal, no deal, it seemed like people then like really came in and it was a big advertisement for their business amongst, you know, a huge group of people. So we heard about all these people having really positive experiences, and we just said, okay, we got to find some way to kind of make this happen. And maybe it was our gumption or us just continuing. I mean, we heard many companies that have applied for years, time and time again, and it's a lot of work, but we knew that they have so many companies applying that we knew that when they asked us to do something, we did it as fast as we could. And when they asked for this information, we supplied that. When they needed that, we did it this way. And so it was really, we wanted to show them that we were both very reliable and also good for it and taking it very seriously, which hopefully would then translate to the producers to say, hey, let's keep working with these guys because they're gonna show up in a cool way when we're ready to film.
Now, once you guys got back from recording, what did you guys do to prepare the business for your 15 seconds of fame?
Yeah, we shook it out, like all the nerves. We kind of shook out our shoulders. No, but we talked to the team, and we kind of at that point, we had like maybe somewhere between 5 and 10 kind of people between full-time and part-time anyway, working with us on the business. And what we did is we really tried to get ready, because we said we don't know if it's going to air, and if it airs, we don't know when. It could be any time throughout the season, but we had high hopes because we knew that Gwyneth Paltrow only filmed so many episodes, and so getting a guest shark, we just thought to ourselves, hopefully makes our chances a little bit better. But what we did is we took the spices that we'd shown the sharks, we then made plans to prep a whole lot of it, and you're guessing. So we tried to guess, we talked to other companies, how much did you sell, how did it go, all this and that. There's a really strong camaraderie amongst Shark Tank alumni, which is actually really cool. I'm in a Facebook group of other Shark Tank alumni. Like, we were talking to other folks all the time. They helped us with pitch prep. But what we did is we started planning out our best guess for what would happen and what would happen if we got even more than that. Like, how do we then kind of really quickly re-up and keep people going? We reached out to all of our site providers, like everyone that powers our site, and say, hey, we're about to have a spike in traffic. Please don't shut down our site. Please don't stop working on our site. We just want to let you know that we're going to have a lot of people coming in a very short amount of time. It's not a malware attack. It's like, it's real customers. So just put us on the safe list so that you know that we can kind of have that capacity. And then we made the Shark Tank set, and we made a Shark Tank set of 4 spices that shipped for free, which is the 4 spices the sharks tried on the show, plus some other goodies. We had like a little drawstring gift bag and kitchen towels. And then we also made the kind of expanded set of 7 spices. So that's the 4 spices plus 3 other kind of like classics that you'd want to try and have in your kitchen and all of that. And we got the site ready. We got the listings ready. We got our packing facilities ready to kind of go. And then we got our fulfillment centers ready, because the fulfillment centers also, they can't scale up and down. You're like getting ready for like a tsunami sized wave to hit your business. And what we just realized is that customers are going to give us a moment to visit our site, and they're either going to say, this looks great and lives up to the hype, and they're going to make a purchase, or they're going to see the site not loading, the product being sold out, something broken, and they'll be like, I'm out of here. No, thank you. And so we prepped all that stuff. And then the last thing that we heard from folks is that apparently Shark Tank viewers love Amazon. And I think the reason is that they know that companies tend to sell out and sites tend to crash. And so they'll go onto Amazon because they know that Amazon is going to ship quickly and we'll have it. So we very quickly also sent a bunch of stuff into the Amazon warehouses, which was not a big channel for us. But since Shark Tank has been much bigger. So we really talked to so many people, heard all their experience, tried to learn from it. And really, we just said, do whatever we need to do to stay in stock, because these people are only going to come once and we're only going to have their attention for a very short amount of time to make that first purchase. And if we get it right, history for our business shows that there'll be regular, repeat, good, lifelong customers. And that's also proven out to be true.
Yeah, no, well, that's awesome to hear. Now, I want to say thank you to both of you for sending me a box. I have not had a chance to try them yet. I've been traveling a lot in January, but I did get to open the box and check out the hand towels. They were very nice. And the box, the presentation, I kept the box and the book because I I will probably shoot a video. My kids have been asking for a video to shoot. It's been a little while since I've done one with them. So I will probably do one with them. Yeah, we'll maybe when spring break comes up in March. That because the kids will be home, I'll be home with the kids solo. So we'll be making some videos. But I hope to try the spices well before then. But I just want to say, like, the presentation, the jars, all like super. Like if that's any representation of the quality of what it's going to taste like once I get to taste it, I think it's going to be phenomenal.
Well, I'm telling you, so many companies put so much effort into their products, and they ship it to you in a box full of just like crumpled up brown paper. And it's like, what are you doing? Like make this experience nice. Like, hand it to somebody. Like, they just bought your thing. Like, let it arrive in a really nice way. Sorry,
yes.
No, we had the opportunity to build a company that was optimized for e-commerce. I mean, COVID was a huge boost for our business. Prior to Shark Tank, that was just unbelievable growth. We were mostly at least half a restaurant supply company before COVID. So we really we came up in this e-com oriented environment and had the opportunity, because of that COVID growth, to design every aspect of our customers' experience. Suddenly we were hitting minimums that we could only have dreamed of, in terms of box production and buying high quality jars and lids. We've been able to optimize, a non ice cream product for shipping online, and yeah, I'm glad you were able to see some of that in the packaging.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. So, speaking of C, what did you guys do for a watch party? Did you have one? How did it go?
Yeah, we had a great party. We are lucky enough to have a lot of friends in the restaurant and food business. So, a good friend of ours, Mark Murphy, who's kind of a celebrity chef, a longtime judge on Chopped, he offered to host a party in his restaurant in Tribeca in Manhattan. So that was great. We had kind of nibbles, and then we projected the episode up on the wall. We had never seen it either, and then suddenly we had 100 or so of our closest friends, our parents, customers, longtime supporters of the business. It was really the first time we'd gotten everybody together in a room like that, and we all watched the episode live, and then we switched it over to our Shopify dashboard. And just had everybody watch the crazy spike in traffic. Like Ori mentioned, people really shop live. They're on company websites during the pitch, during the show. So that was pretty crazy to see the number, the visitor number on our website just skyrocket in a second. And then we did a little Q&A, not to miss an opportunity to have a good conversation about the bigger significance of what we're doing, why we're a social enterprise. Ori led a Q&A with our guests, not to make it too academic, but to have a conversation about Shark Tank and what that experience was like for us and what it meant for our business.
Well, that sounds awesome. I love that you I think you're the first ones to tell me you put the spike of traffic up on the screen after it was done. You were done watching the pitch, and so you guys didn't run into any issues or anything like that with your site.
We had we're a remote team, so some people were in New York. Many people are living in other cities around the place. So the remote folks had the burden of making sure that everything was up and running, and the local folks got to come to the party. But both of our parents were at the party. We invited as many journalists as we could. We invited a lot of chefs and other industry folks that have helped us out. And so we just wanted it to really be a celebration. I mean, Ethan and I knew the outcome of it. But like you said, we filmed for almost an hour. We didn't know what the cut would be and how they'd make us look. And we had no idea. So we see it live for the first time with everybody else. And so we saw the site traffic go way up. And I think as a testament to all of the preparation work that we had, we really were trying. And because also we were already 6-7 years into it. So it wasn't this was our first year and then we get hit with this crazy wave. And so our team showed up, our partners, our site didn't go down. We had enough inventory. It was really wonderful. And what we also learned, one of the keys of e-commerce is to just set people's expectations well. So we just put notes all over the site of saying, hey, we're taking orders. It's going to take 3 to 5 days for your order to ship. Don't worry about it. Like, we're on it. And to just try to kind of make sure that like nobody would be stressed out or think that things would come immediately. And then we really did a lot of expectation setting. And we learned that like you could take a month to ship something out as long as you told the customer that it's going to take you a month for it to ship out. If you didn't tell them, then you're going to be dealing in customer support questions all day long. And like it's fair for them to freak out. But we learned enough to be able to preempt that and really have a smooth flow of all of that. But it was it was Friday night between 8 p.m. when the show aired and midnight was our biggest like day in the business. Like we had never taken on capacity. And then Saturday was the second biggest. So it's just this really, really crazy influx of orders. And so it was also a test to us to see just how ready we could be. And we took it so seriously and so professionally, because I think we learned that you either nail it or people move along. Like, you don't get a second chance for this.
Yeah, I mean, it's great that you were able to meet the supply needs of the night, and as well as the having the website can keep up, and that, I mean, I know that in early years that was definitely a much bigger problem on the website side going down. But that speaks to all the preparedness that you guys went through to make sure that wasn't the case. And 3 to 5 days, realistically, come on, like I wouldn't expect anything to ship.
If this was our chance to make a point.
But it's good that you communicated it.
Well, if you placed an order Friday night during the show, you living in Philly, you would have had your order on Monday. We would have shipped it out on Saturday, and it would have got to you by Monday.
That's still that's still to ship out in 3 days or to be delivered.
No, we saw it as we saw it as an opportunity to really make a point that like if people order from us, we take it seriously and we deliver it quickly. We also saw it as a point that like we make money when this comes in, but so does our fulfillment center, and so does our packing facility, and so do our partner farmers that we get to buy more. So we also saw this as an opportunity. Like, this is our social impact. Like, we would be remiss if we weren't able to kind of show up for this and really, really build it out in the right way. So ultimately, like, people talk about it's stressful, it's crazy, sure, all those things, but it's also an opportunity to call all of our partners up and be like, we're going to have the biggest day of our careers. Like, are you all ready? And we did that, and we brought the whole team together, and we really were able to show up across the whole supply chain.
That is awesome. And that's one of the reasons I think business is such a great thing, right? You're able to impact so many people's lives, not just customers, but the employees and the people that are shipping and everybody that's touching, putting the fingerprints on around the business, and affecting so many people. So I think it's really awesome that we as entrepreneurs and super entrepreneurs get to affect so many lives, hopefully mostly positively, through our ability to deliver something that people either want or need.
Yeah. I regret that we didn't bring our own little bell for our end too to contribute also. So when are you going to start merchandising, Joe?
I need to. I want to get a bell that's the Liberty Bell that like I could like ding it, but I need one that's like big enough to sit in the background of my videos, so like I can like almost like a gong, right? But it's a Liberty Bell because this is Philly.
Yeah.
So how did you guys come across my video?
I was giving a talk to a supply chain class at Baruch College in New York, and the professor had the whole class watch your video to prepare for my talk. I don't think I had seen it. It must have just come out. So I walked into this classroom to talk to this group of students. I was going to talk about supply chains and logistics, and suddenly they were very well prepared. With all the questions, all the points that you had made during the video, all they wanted to do was talk about Shark Tank and make all those same points. So I then had to go home and watch the video, and it was great. And Ori and I really appreciated the things that you said about the pitch and the way that you reacted to it. So we reached out.
Oh, that is so cool to hear. I've only had one other teacher reach out to me so far to talk about the videos and all that, but hey, if they're watching, like, I'm happy to give a talk. Like, let's make it happen. No, that is great that many people get to see it and experience it in a way that My wife got to experience it for so many years. But no, it's yeah, that is serious. But also, I just it to me, it's always about teaching and learning, right? I'm always learning because I'm not in the spice business, right? I know numbers, systems, processes, team building, offer building, marketing, but specifics to the different businesses, like to me, it's always a challenge, and that's one of the reasons why I do it in real time. I don't stop the video and like, oh, let me go do some searches and make me sound really smart. Like I recorded for 2 hours and then chopped it down to an 8-minute like funnel of like, this is the best. I look so smart. Look at me. I don't know everything, and I don't purport to know everything. I'm both here to teach and to learn at the same time. So I appreciate you guys going on and getting to teach me as well as the other super entrepreneurs about the spice business and what it takes to not just sit in an ivory tower, but actually go into those businesses, those farms, and spend time with those families and the business families, that they're working together. The employees of that become the business family is what I'm specifically saying, and get to be a part of that.
Yeah, it's amazing, and I think as you were saying about Shark Tank, that's what makes the show so much fun, so entertaining, is that you can actually learn a lot about an industry and a particular business model in an 8-minute segment. We probably watched, I don't know, I was never a big Shark Tank fan before this process, but I probably watched every single back episode. Because we realized that you had to embrace the style, right? You had to do a Shark Tank style pitch in order for it to resonate, and so that's what we tried to do. But it's anyway, it's because the show is so good at that we all enjoy watching it.
Yeah, well, it is. It is still TV, right? Like you gotta hit the mark as far as making something entertaining and being more upbeat than if you were just sitting around a board table or something and talking about it.
Yeah.
So,
but also like it's such a valuable source for early stage company details, right? Like when else can you hear another company like say, hey, we sell tinned fish and here's our revenue for the past 3 years. Like, here's our margins. Like, it was also like, I had been watching it all along because it was just a really interesting recon. And like, there's lots of food entrepreneurs on there. And if you're somebody who has a food business or is thinking about starting a food business or any other category on Shark Tank, like just watch a bunch of pitches. You'll get to see all of people's numbers and learn some of the back end stuff. And that was really interesting always to hear how well this like non-alcoholic spirit company is doing and how well this fish company is doing and how well this vinegar company is doing and ice cream company and what they're working with. And so I always found that was fascinating. And I didn't think that there was any other place that you could really hear kind of early stage entrepreneurs share a lot about the financials and the fundamentals of their businesses on such a public stage. Those things are locked behind, walls usually. And so I thought that was just fascinating.
Yeah, it is. I mean, to have people come forward, and especially the ones that are more forthcoming with the truth than others. I mean, I try to be positive. I always looking for the positive, to be able to take a positive out for not just the person that was on Shark Tank, right? You guys are real people with your real business, with your real experiences. Yes, the sharks are real and all that, but they also are playing characters on TV. We don't. I mean, I know. If you're gonna hide something, right? You hide it at 58 minutes into a podcast. If you got something that or some dirt or whatever. But I know they're not perfect. They're humans, right? And I think they should be remembered as such.
Yeah, totally. And that was one thing I realized quickly when we walked out onto the carpet and you're looking at the sharks. That was the first chance that we had to meet them face to face. And you see all of the TV, the I don't know what you call it, the art of making TV, like all the behind the scenes stuff you see in person, the makeup and the shoes that are coming on and off and the way that people are sitting. I really started to understand that they're playing characters. And so we needed to play characters as well, kind of in the same world as their characters, not the way that we might interact with people in our day-to-day lives, but they play their characters really well. They have a ton of experience doing it. They do it all the time, and we could try to get to that level of performance.
Yeah, I mean, without that, 13 seasons of experience plus. I mean, like Kevin O'Leary was on Dragon's Den before that, so it's a lot to catch up to, and to a different level of preparation that maybe not everybody has really considered, that's going to be going on the show, to realize this is still TV, and there's the sharks are people, but they're also really very much playing characters on their there. And while you guys are playing up your personalities and stuff to be able to fit that stage, again, you're still real people. You still got real businesses, and there's the real experiences, and having those shared stories from the entrepreneurs. Again, sometimes if you read between the lines, because some people accuse me of being overly positive all the time. I'm like, well, if you read between the lines, when we got to looking at their website and looking at the social media, could use some work, right? And maybe what they're saying, maybe it was true at the time. I don't know. This is, it's a year or two removed. But sometimes things aren't always as they seem. But the people that are willing to be honest and upfront about it, and usually the ones that are coming on here, I can tell you firsthand as a super entrepreneur watching here, I've become friends with almost all the people that have come on this show, and the ones that haven't reached out for an interview were the ones that I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're going to, but we'll see. Like you're welcome, but I haven't heard anything. So it just is what it is.
Well, we're happy that you're having us, and that we get to both have watched the analysis, and now we get to confront you about it. No, but it was really wonderful. And I'm glad that you're doing the work and digging in and talking to people about it. And also, we also are, right, like you said, not the people that they saw for 8 minutes on TV, but we're also people that are trying to build a business and trying to run this social enterprise and all that other wonderful stuff. So we really appreciate that you're adding, I think, an extra dimension to the whole Shark Tank experience.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. And I hope that the people that don't get it and don't understand, I hope so. A lot of them have come around. They say, I really hated watching the show with you. And then, they watch 3 or 4 videos and they're like, oh, I get it now. I understand what he's trying to accomplish with this. And, instead of just throwing quick snap judgment around. I know I'm giving snap judgment too, but I'm trying to be as positive as possible because it's coming from an educational standpoint. But speaking of educational, real quick, Ori and Ethan, what did you want to be when you grew up?
I can share that I grew up in a house. My dad's a marine biologist, a scientist. My mom's an architect. I've watched them both be both incredible at their field, but struggle with the business side of their fields. And so as a kid, I thought I wanted to be a scientist like my dad. Then he had us cleaning out fish tanks and dissecting fish, and that very clearly became not an option, all that stuff. But even for me as a young kid, I just saw where they were kind of getting stuck, and I started getting interested in trying to figure this out. So I even went to University of Maryland, studied business as an undergrad, and I didn't know what I would become or where it would apply or anything like that. And Joel, you can talk about lots of different types of businesses, but where do you kind of anchor your boat? And so I was just I was really glad that I think through Ethan got that connection to food and was able to kind of apply my background and my skills in business and in entrepreneurship to that whole food world, to just bring 2 things that I separately loved into one place. But man, my dad, out of 4 kids, 0 scientists, and I think that it has something to do with just how much science education we got in the first few years of our lives.
Yeah, hey, fish are friends, not food.
we love them.
No, I had it for lunch. I'm good. I'm on the same side.
And I come from a long line of entrepreneurs, actually, although it took me a long time to figure out that that's what I wanted to do with my life. My mother owned a toy store. I grew up in my mother's toy store. My grandmother had a hardware store. But I had other careers that I pursued, working in restaurants. I thought I wanted to be a chef for a while, and then working as an aid worker. I thought that's what I wanted to do with my career. And it was only this kind of funny idea that we stumbled into, for both of us, connecting food with our work and having an impact on the world. That was a real breakthrough. I think if you went and talked to me as a kid and said, this is the job that you would be doing, I think I'd be pretty excited about that. It's a pretty cool job that we get to do. So I think it worked out in the end.
I think you absolutely, to be like, I'm going to go stay on these farms and things like that, you have to be very passionate about what you're doing. So
yeah. You gotta love the travel. We're planning out this. We're flying to Ethiopia on Saturday. That's a 16+ hour journey with a stop in West Africa. So that's only to get there. Then we have flights almost every single day while we're in East Africa. It's schleppy, as we say in New York, but it's worth it.
Yeah, it's a word I hadn't heard in a little while.
You bring New York entrepreneurs onto your podcast, you're going to hear some Yiddish.
So what is the future of Burlap and Barrel looking like?
We have some cool new products. Go ahead, Ori. Go ahead.
Well, the Shark Tank brought a lot of new people into our orbit, which was really great to bring them in. And we're trying to expand the business in a couple of ways. I mean, like Ethan was talking about, we have a bunch of exciting new products, and we're going to source some new. We've been building out our origin blends of spice blends from origin, grown and blended by the farmers at origin according to their traditional recipes. People love single spices, but blends are just a little bit easier to use, and so you don't have to have 6 different spices. You can have it all in one jar, shake it out. Dinner is beautiful. We're working on our first import of whole chilies from Mexico. We've just heard so many stories from chefs and restaurateurs and home cooks that they just can't get high quality chilies, Mexican chilies here, and many of them come from China anyways. We're working on right now expanding out our line of extracts. So we worked with a great company called Bittercube to make our cardamom extract, and people love that so much that we're expanding it into vanilla, into saffron, into nutmeg extracts, to just really easy to add to baked goods, add to your oatmeal, add to your coffee, just really fun and easy ways. And we're expanding our lineup of single origin sugars and salts, because who knows, when was the last time you knew where your sugar came from, right? Sugar comes from a plant, from cane, from coconut, from maple trees, from all that stuff. You can make sugar out of all these things. Who has any idea where those came from? And so what we see is building the single origin spices as a company is also giving us room to expand into lots of other areas around the pantry and around what people cook that are still tied to plants and leaves and barks and all that, but that right now there's absolutely no traceable high quality alternative on the market for it. So we're expanding in that. So you talked about too much stuff. We're going even more. But what we find is that people want to do all their shopping in one place. So you're not going to buy your cumin and paprika and garlic in one place and your saffron somewhere else. So it's also just a way to be what are you missing for your cabinet? Come to us. We'll give you a better version of it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, because it is a one space, right? Generally speaking, one cabinet. That's what we have, one cabinet, and it's actually, that high, full of spices. So if I can go and get all that and click and have it all delivered, that's a lot better than thinking, piecemealing, unless you were just we have the best this salt or one thing that's and it's so mind-boggling great that and it takes all your effort and bandwidth and capacity to be able to produce that one thing that it's yes, I have to go there to get that one thing because it's that amazing.
That's what we have, but across a lot of spices.
Right, but that's what I'm saying. You gotta have you really should have as many of the spices as you possibly can to be able to fulfill that whole cabinet need. Plus, for your sake, I mean, to be able to capture that much greater of a cart, was a customer cart.
Right.
Average, right? So that's important too, right? Because there's only so many so many times I could buy a single $10 spice, right? So it's like, oh, cool, we have this customer, but like they're buying like once a month because they're buying one spice and it's $10. Like that's awesome. But that ain't going to pay all the bills for all these trips flying all over the place, right? We gotta be able to expand that and get it to, when people are spending with us, they're spending $100, $110, $150, $100 to maybe $200 just to restock all their spices. But no, I love it. So tell people where they can go and get all their spices fulfilled here.
So here you'll see them. You can come to Burlap and Barrel, BURLAP Barrel, BARREL. Here's our logo and our spice passport. Woo. This is a fun thing. Awesome. This is what I have, just an 8-pack sampler of 8 different spices in fully recyclable little pods that you can take for travel, gifting, camping. Anyway, this has just been a fun thing that's been really popular on the holidays that we made about a year ago. But come to Burlap and Barrel. Check us out on Instagram. Check us out on burlapandbarrel.com. And we're going to be sharing. Ethan's going to be posting a lot of stuff. We're going to be in Ethiopia and Tanzania. So come check out what's next. Visit some spice farms with us by following us on Instagram too.
Very cool.
They're the sharks.
Very cool. Yeah. Well, you got to have Shark Tank sprinkled in here. And I love that you use them as testimonials.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, guys, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I know it's a little different for me because I'm not in my studio. I'm here at the shop, and I still got to catch up with that person that came by my window twice looking for me. I had a smile on his face both times, but I'm sure he'll have something to say about it when I see him. So thank you again for taking your time today.
Yeah,
thanks for having us, Joe.
Good luck with that conversation.
You're so welcome. Thanks. No, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Anyway, and thank you for making it all the way to the end of this video. If you haven't checked out Ethan and Super Warriors pitch, go click on over here. If you have already, click over here. I'll see you in that video. Till then, take care and go be super.